Dragonslayer, released in 1981, is considered a Disney movie, though it was produced in collaboration with another studio, Paramount Pictures. This collaboration allowed the film to push boundaries that were atypical for Disney, such as its darker tone, intense special effects, and themes of violence and sacrifice. There's even a bit of side boob. The film is able to explore more adult-orientated storytelling, while still benefiting from the resources and distribution network of a major studio like Paramount. Directed by Matthew Robbins and co-written with Hal Barwood, this film remains an important piece of cinema history for its unique contributions to the fantasy genre, and of course the not-so-friendly dragon. One of the standout aspects of Dragonslayer is its innovative use of special effects. The dragon, named Vermithrax Pejorative, yes, that is its name, was brought to life using a combination of practical effects and pioneering techniques that set new standards for the industry. Phil Tippett, a special effects artist renowned for his later work on Star Wars and Jurassic Park, utilised a technique called go motion, which is almost the inverse of the traditional stop motion. This technique involves moving the model slightly during the exposure of each frame, creating a more fluid and lifelike motion, and it was this that earned the film an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. When Vermithrax takes flight, you can practically hear the sighs of relief from the effects team. The dragon's wings flap with a majestic awkwardness, and its fire-breathing prowess is so convincing, you'll almost believe it's real, if real dragons moved like slightly inebriated marionettes. Yet, it's this very charm that makes the dragon unforgettable. Vermithrax isn't just a monster, it's a milestone in special effects, paving the way for the CGI wonders of today. Now, the cast was a real mashup blend, featuring a mix of established actors and emerging talent. Peter MacNicol, in his film debut, played the lead role of Galen Bradwarden, an apprentice sorcerer tasked with slaying the dragon.
My lord Ulrich is no longer. All that you asked of him, you may now expect of me.
MacNicol's performance was critically acclaimed, marking the beginning of a diverse career that would later include roles in Sophie's Choice, the TV series Ally McBeal, and who can forget Janos Poa in Ghostbusters 2.
I think it won't be long before you can assist me in the more important restoration.
Ralph Richardson, a legendary British actor, played Ulrich, the aged sorcerer whose death propels Galen on his quest. Richardson's performance added gravitas to the film, providing a strong foundation for the young MacNicol. Caitlin Clarke portrayed Valerian, a young woman disguised as a boy to avoid being sacrificed to the dragon, and the role was significant. It added depth and a twist to the narrative, uncommon for this era's fantasy films. Director Matthew Robbins, who had previously worked on The Sugarland Express and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, both with Steven Spielberg, brought his distinct vision to Dragonslayer, alongside co-writer Hal Barwood. The script itself balances dark, mature themes with the fantastical elements typical of the genre. It's this balance that was a departure from the more child-friendly fantasy films of the time, providing a mature narrative that dealt with themes of sacrifice, power, and the transition from old to new. Derek Van Lint was the cinematographer, who had previously worked on Alien, and he brought a similar atmospheric and textured visual style to Dragonslayer. His work helped to create a believable and immersive fantasy setting, enhancing the film's overall impact. Sounding out this medieval fantasy is Alex North, the composer of Dragonslayer's score, adding a rich, atmospheric layer to the storytelling. North, known for his work on A Streetcar Named Desire and Spartacus, hits you in the face with a score that is both haunting and majestic, perfectly complementing the film's tone and setting. So what actually happens in the plot? Welcome to Erland, a cosy little hellscape. It's a picturesque medieval kingdom that would be a lovely place to live, if not for one tiny problem. A monstrous dragon named Vermithrax Pejorative, who enjoys a regular buffet of maiden sacrifices. The villagers, caught between their medieval superstitions and the reality of becoming dragon chow, are desperate for a solution, so naturally they seek out a wise old wizard. Enter Ulrich, the quintessential ancient sorcerer who probably smells like a mix of old books and magical herbs. The sorcerer, played by the venerable Ralph Richardson, is exactly what you'd expect from a wizard: wise, powerful, and really old. But before you can say abracadabra, he decides to demonstrate his immortality by promptly dying in a duel. This leaves us with Galen, his awkward apprentice played by Peter MacNicol, who has all the confidence of a goldfish in a shark tank. Despite his lack of experience, Galen is now the kingdom's best hope. Yes, Erland is really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Galen sets off on his heroic journey, armed with Ulrich's magic amulet and about half a clue. Along the way, he meets Valerian, a spirited young woman disguised as a boy to avoid the whole sacrificial virgin gig. This gender-bending subplot is as progressive as it is plot convenient, And when Valerian quickly reveals her true identity, and because this is a fantasy film from the 80s, she quickly becomes Galen's love interest. Together they face various medieval challenges like climbing mountains, navigating dark caverns, and dealing with Galen's crippling self-doubt. So to the dragon with the most dramatic name, Vermithrax pejorative. Is not just any dragon. She's a state-of-the-art go-motion marvel, courtesy of the legendary Phil Tippett. Vermithrax lives in a lair filled with bones, fire, and enough ambience to host a heavy metal music video. When she's not busy, torching villages or demanding sacrificial virgins, she's brooding in her lair, probably contemplating her dramatic moniker. Armed with a magical lance and the aforementioned amulet, Galen confronts Vermithrax in a series of battles that could generously be described as a learning curve. He makes several attempts to slay the dragon, each time proving that enthusiasm doesn't always equate to effectiveness. Galen's valiant but clumsy efforts culminate in an epic showdown, where he finally gets his act together, just in time for Ulrich to pull off one last magical trick from beyond the grave. And as it turns out, Ulrich's death was part of a master plan, because of course it was. His final spell involves self-immolation and a phoenix-like resurrection, leading to a spectacular explosion that takes Vermithrax down with him. It's a classic, if you want something done right, do it yourself moment, albeit posthumously. Galen is left to bask in the glory of a job half well done, having technically just been the one to stick around until the end. With Vermithrax defeated and the Kingdom of Erland finally saved from its fiery terror, Galen and Valerian can look forward to a future of peace, prosperity, and probably a lot of explaining about why it took so long. The villagers celebrate, the sacrificial lottery is presumably abolished, and our heroes quite literally ride off into the sunset. There's a nice political point here with the king sticking a sword into a grisly corpse of Vermithrax and being declared a Dragonslayer. Galen may not have been the traditional hero, but he does get the girl and the glory in the end, proving that even the most unlikely hero can have his day, especially if he has a magical amulet and a bloody good mentor. Dragonslayer, beneath this surface of sword fights and magical incantations, has some timeless themes that enriches the narrative, offering insights into human nature, societal structures, and existential questions. So how do these shape this cult classic? One of the most prominent themes is sacrifice. The Kingdom of Erland is plagued by the dragon Vermithrax, and the villagers are forced to offer young women as sacrifices to appease the beast. This ritualistic practice highlights the desperation and helplessness of the people, showcasing their willingness to endure personal loss for the greater good. There's a great scene when Valerian is revealed at the village dance between two fathers, which further cements this. Galen's journey as the apprentice, who steps into the role of the hero, is also a story of personal sacrifice. He must abandon his naivety and face mortal danger to save the kingdom, but the ultimate sacrifice is made by the sorcerer, who uses his own life to set the stage for Vermithrax's defeat. This act shows that true heroism often involves great personal loss and selflessness. And next up is the old chestnut power and corruption, which is pretty heavy really for a kids' film. King Cassiodorus, portrayed as a ruler who resorts to sacrificial rituals to maintain his reign, represents the corrupting influence of power. His willingness to sacrifice innocent lives, except his own daughter, to preserve his throne exposes the dark side of leadership and governance. The sorcerer's magic too represents power, both its potential for good and its inherent dangers. As a sorcerer, Ulrich holds immense power, but his demise shows that power alone cannot solve all problems. It's Galen's courage and moral integrity that ultimately lead to the dragon's defeat, suggesting that true power lies in virtues like bravery and righteousness rather than mere magical prowess. Dragonslayer also explores the theme of transition on multiple levels. The death of the sorcerer signifies the end of an era of traditional sorcery and the beginning of a new age. Galen's journey from apprentice to hero symbolises personal growth and the passing of the torch from one generation to the next, and it's mirrored in the broader societal shift depicted in the film, where old beliefs and customs are challenged and transformed. Valerian embodies change and transformation. Initially disguised as a boy to avoid being a human kebab, her eventual revelation as a strong female character underscores the broader theme of breaking free from societal constraints and embracing one's true identity. This undertone adds depth to the narrative, highlighting with subtlety those expectations versus such a rigid societal structure. However, it should also be noted that once revealed, her femininity is very much at the fore, and she was only dressing as a man so she didn't get fed to the dragon. We also have faith and skepticism being juxtaposed, particularly in the context of magic and religion. The villagers' belief in the sorcerer and the dragon's malevolence represents a form of faith. Conversely, the skepticism displayed by characters like Galen, who initially doubts his abilities, and King Cassiodorus, who relies on sacrificial rituals rather than facing the dragon directly, reflects a conflict between belief and doubt. Galen's transformation embodies this. The film suggests that true power comes from inner conviction, and the courage to act on one's belief. The dragon Vermithrax embodies the raw, untamed forces of nature that clash with the structured society of Erland in a nature versus civilization kind of way. This theme explores the tension between the natural world and human civilization. The villagers' attempts to placate the dragon through sacrifices represent a futile effort to control and coexist with nature's destructive power. Galen's quest to defeat the dragon symbolises humanity's struggle to assert control over natural forces. The film portrays this conflict as both a literal battle and a metaphorical one, where civilization must confront and overcome the chaos of the natural world to achieve progress and security. Dragonslayer is a rich tapestry of themes that elevate it beyond a simple fantasy adventure. These themes of sacrifice, power, transition, faith, and nature versus civilization intertwine to create a narrative that is both thought-provoking. It is these themes that contribute to the film's enduring appeal, inviting viewers to reflect on the deeper messages embedded within its medieval fantasy setting. As a result, it remains a compelling exploration of timeless human struggles and societal dynamics, making it a must-watch for fans of the genre and beyond. No surprise then that Game of Thrones author Mr. Martin is a huge fan of the film. Now, Dragonslayer may not have set the box office on fire or be the most critically acclaimed, but its cultural impact is undeniable. It's the kind of film that makes you appreciate the earnestness of early 80s cinema. In a landscape dominated by kid-friendly fantasy, it dared to be dark and mature. It explored these themes with all the subtlety of a dragon crash landing into a medieval village, and is probably one of the darkest movies Disney has ever made. And it's a masterclass in how to make a cult classic. It's a blend of high fantasy and low-budget charm that you won't find anywhere else. If you've ever wondered what it's like to see a fantasy film that's equal parts ridiculous and revolutionary, look no further. In a world filled with polished CGI-laden spectacles, Dragonslayer stands out as a testament to the days when dragons were painstakingly animated and practical effects were still a thing. With the hero being lovably inept and lots of unsanitized fantasy, you might just find yourself rooting for the dragon, or at least wishing it had a bit more screen time. And dragons with impossibly grand names like Vermithrax pejorative are not to be trifled with, especially if your only qualifications are an inherited amulet and a penchant for amateur sorcery. Dragonslayer is full of heroism. It's not about being the most competent or the bravest, but about having a heart full of courage, a bit of luck, and a lot of fireproof clothing. And let's not forget the timeless wisdom that when faced with a murderous dragon, it's always handy to have a wizard who's willing to go out with a bang. In the end, Dragonslayer might not have the polish of modern blockbusters or the narrative finesse of timeless classics, but it has something far more valuable: charm and timeless themes. Yes, the special effects are delightfully retro, the dialogue is occasionally wooden and a bit clunky, and the plot twists are as predictable as a knight's chivalry. Yet it's precisely these quirks that make Dragonslayer an endearing watch. So if you're ever in the mood for a trip down memory lane, filled with medieval misadventures, heroic hiccups, and a dragon who could definitely use some therapy, Dragonslayer is the perfect choice. It's a film that reminds us all that even the most unlikely heroes can save the day. So remember, in the battle between man and dragon, always bet on the sorcerer who can self-immolate with style. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell icon for more dragon content, with a deep dive on Dragonheart up next. But until then, keep your swords sharp, your magic amulets handy, and your Dragonslayer skills, well, maybe just stick to watching the professionals on screen.